I've known our next guest for a long time. I knew that they were wanting to write a book, and I always encouraged them to do that. Then found out that they were actually writing a book. So it was fun to encourage them while they were writing. So now I have the opportunity to be on the backside of that book having been published and visit with Ashley Kelly about her book, what it's all about, the book writing process. So enjoy part one of No Small Thing.
Welcome to the Scott Townsend Show, brought to you by Dietzo Man Productions.
I'm going to be the hero. You know what I mean? That's not God. That it was that he created us. We chose, humanity chose against him, continued choosing against him over and over and over. But his love for us, his desire to have us back, to have that beautiful, perfect relationship that we were created for, it drove him to the cross.
Hey, this is Scott Townsend. Welcome back to the Scott Townsend Show. And today I have with me a good friend, a great writer, a new writer, an author of No Small Thing, Ashley Lane Kelly. Ashley, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I
You're
love
good.
that middle name.
Yeah, I was like, you had to throw in my middle name there.
No, I think that's a cool middle name. I like that.
Thank you. I did after finishing everything with the book and turning in like all the author stuff. I second guessed my decision not to put my middle name on there. But it is what it is at this point.
Yeah. So Ashley, just for those of you listening, watching, I've known Ashley for a very long time, and she's just written this book, and I knew she was writing it at some point, and I was very excited to get my copy, which I got Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been reading. Look at all the notes I got in here.
That's awesome. I love that.
So, yeah, and so I gotta be honest here. So I got to like 185 this morning, and I just started reading like the first sentence of each paragraph after that. I was like, oh my God, I'm running out of time. So I did really good the first 98% of the book, but
I love it.
I will go back and finish up properly.
I love it.
First, Ashley. Who is Ashley? Ashley, she's a mother of three. She is a pastor's wife, speaker, Bible scholar, teacher, and a great photographer.
A great photographer.
Yeah. So you can check her out on her Instagram. We'll talk more about that here in just a little bit. But welcome to the show, Ashley.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah. So first question, like I always ask everybody else, a little icebreaker. What'd you have for breakfast this morning?
I had a mug of oatmeal. I say mug because I put my oatmeal in a mug so I can hold the handle. That's what I have. I usually have that every morning, just a little bit of oatmeal. Pretty boring.
All right. So let's talk about the book. I'd like to talk about the process also a little bit, a little bit later. But so why this book? What you've wanted to write for a long time, I know, because of conversations I've been a part of or heard. And so of all of the subjects that you could have chosen, why did you choose No Small Thing?
Mm-hmm. It's a good question. Probably when I first kind of made my dream or intention to at some point be an author. I've always been a writer. I've always kind of written, but to be like a published author, I don't know that I had necessarily a book in me at that point or an idea of a book. And so it was just kind of a dream. And then, so I never probably would have guessed that I would write a book about small things, which is which is what it is about. Small things that actually aren't small. And it really started with a phrase that kind of, I feel like God planted in my heart. Small doesn't mean insignificant. And I saw it all over the Bible as I would read and study. And but it really, and I even say this in the preface of the book. And that's like God just kind of planted that phrase in my heart, and I couldn't like let go of it. It just kept coming back up, and I kept seeing small things. I kept realizing how, everyday little things are so important. And then in 2019, we announced to our church that we were going to start a new campus in Pawhuska, Oklahoma, which is a small town, a very small town. We're not from a big town. Bartlesville, Oklahoma is
Yeah.
not big, 35,000 people. But we were going to start a new campus of our church in Pawhuska, Oklahoma, that has about 3,500 people. And my husband was going to be the pastor. He was going to lead that. And so we were on stage at church and kind of making this announcement. And this is where I, for the first time, proclaimed, like, small doesn't mean insignificant. And God just kind of lit that up in my heart, and how even a small town isn't insignificant. One person isn't insignificant. And so that was in 2019, and it just kind of grew since then. And in about 2021 is when really I kind of started turning just that idea into an outline, into, like, what do, kind of digging through the Bible and figuring out, like, how does this really apply to real life? And so it's been a process, but it was a seed that was planted in 2019.
And yeah, so many people, from a church perspective or even from a business perspective, they want to go off and do bigger and better things, and to say, you know what, instead of going to Chicago or Orlando, you're going to Pawhuska, Oklahoma. So how did you have to deal with that, or was that okay, or did you like, what?
Yeah. No, well, and I kind of get into this in the book. The story doesn't like start there. It's kind of like the middle point. And my husband and I, for our entire marriage, have had the dream and felt the call to be in ministry, which we have been, and we had been up until that point as well, but also to plant a church, to lead in that way. And we wouldn't have foreseen the idea of like being campus pastors. But it's been great. It's been so good. And so with our campus in Pawhuska, we're able to like live out that dream without being completely on our own, if that makes sense. And so when we felt kind of the call towards Pawhuska, and the conversations were beginning at church with our pastor and with my husband, Jamie and I, we were in a place already where we were like, we'll go and do, whatever we feel like God is leading us to. And so at that point, we were in such a good, healthy spot that we saw it as like, it was so exciting. We see it as a promotion. We see it as, yes, maybe it's a smaller town, but there's so much potential, and such big things can happen in small towns. And so it never once was like, why would we go to a small town? Honestly, I would feel super uncomfortable going to a bigger town, like a bigger place. And that's just me. I'm not somebody that's ever really been drawn to like urban settings or really big masses of people. So yeah.
The book, finding freedom and significance in the right here, right now of life. I think a lot of people, myself included, I mean, this book really hit me right between the eyes, because Okay, so you were very transparent in this book. I was kind of
Yeah.
surprised,
Yeah.
and I guess you know, turnabout's fair play. I guess I can be transparent too. Uh, Fighting feelings of insignificance is huge for me right now,
Hmm.
and yeah, for about the last 2 or 3 years, yeah, feeling insignificant has been absolutely debilitating.
Yeah.
So when I was reading this book, and you talk about that too a little bit. Um, I think too oftentimes we get disappointed when things don't work out the way we thought they should,
Hmm.
and then you wind up maybe doing something you didn't think you would be doing. And so how does that square? How do you handle all that? And so you go into it in the book. You're How did you structure the book?
How did I structure it? Um, so it's split up into three parts. And obviously it's about, it's called No Small Things. So it's about small things as far as like everyday life. But I knew that I had to start with the big thing to give the small things the correct perspective.
Before we continue, the best way to support the Scott Townsend Show is by telling friends, family members, and becoming a patron at patreon.com/the Scott Townsend Show. So, yeah, we have awesome perks, personalized videos, personalized episodes, all kinds of cool stuff at different tier levels. Patreon allows us to do the show full time, part time, anytime. So, thank you so much for your support.
And so the whole first part of the book is actually about our big God and his big plan and the big hope that we have in him. And because of that big plan. And so, and I love that. I love that the first part of the book is actually the antithesis of, a small thing. It's the big thing. And so really the way
Yeah,
I've
that's
been
cool.
yeah, the way that I've been kind of explaining that is that the first part is really the theology of the book, where we dig into who God is, what he has done, what he promises to do in a very, I hope, relatable, easy to understand way. It's not all like head knowledge. It's I hope that it's written in such a way that it really is able to make like the bigness and the amazingness, the vastness of God, like really hit home, and that actually touches my everyday life. And so once I had that settled, the next two parts of the book are digging into, well, since God is so big and he's got this big plan, we've got this big hope, then the things that he asks of me, like the things that are right here in front of me right now, are those too small? And then the things that I have and the people that I have in front of me, or the things that he might ask of me, like to go plant a church in Pahaska, is that too small? And so we kind of dig into what's right in front of us and then what God asks of us. And we all throughout the book, I ask the question, is it too small a thing? With the hope that once you're done reading the book, like that question sticks in your head. And, when you're washing the dishes, or when you're washing your dog, or, going to a 9 to 5 job that, it's like, what is this doing for me? You can ask the question, is this too small a thing? Is this not significant? Yeah, that's kind of how it's set up.
So you use some examples of women in the Bible
Huh?
to kind of illustrate different points like obedience and control and stuff
Mhm.
like that. The women, Ruth, and was it Esther and
Um, yeah, so it starts with Tamar,
Tamar, right?
Rahab, Ruth, and Bathsheba.
So I was reading this, and I thought, man, because this is kind of written from a lady's perspective.
Yeah.
A lot of references to moms and what moms do and stuff like
Yeah.
that. but really, it's a good book for guys to read too.
I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, because there's no, I mean, there's no difference in insignificance
Hmm.
and feeling insignificant, whether
Hmm.
it's at the job or at the home or whatever. Guys can feel just as insignificant as anybody else, you know.
Right.
And so I was reading that, I was like, man, it's too bad that I even told one person, I told a men's group that I go to, I said, y'all all need to read Ashley Kelly's book. It's really good. You know, you were talking about
Flowers
how,
on it. You'll love it.
huh?
I said it's got flowers on it. You'll love it.
Yeah, yeah. The guy version put a gun and maybe, you know, a moose head on it or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, you were talking about the bigness of God and the 100. You were trying to put it in perspective. I liked how you pointed out there's 100 quintillion. What was it, stars?
I don't even know what that number would be.
Yeah, I looked it up.
Did you?
Yeah, it's 20 with
22 zeros behind
22
it.
zeros, which is quintillion,
Quintillion.
which is
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
You know, you can't even, there's no way to
Can't
even
fathom it.
comprehend
No.
that number.
Yeah.
And then I was instantly reminded of, here I am doing all the talking, so I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I love it.
This is a great object lesson right here.
Yeah. Rubik's Cube.
Mm-hmm. See how small it is?
Yep.
I can hold my hand. You know how many positions you can put a Rubik's Cube in?
A lot.
43 quintillion
What?
different positions.
That's crazy.
That's crazy. So you talk about small,
Hmm.
but at the same time, it has, yeah, it's 43 with 22 zeros after it.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So when I read that, I was like, here's an example of something small.
Mhm.
So you can
Yeah.
use that in your speaking. You can take a
Yeah. There
Rubik's
you
Cube with you and
go.
say, just look at this Rubik's Cube.
Look at this.
Yeah. See how small this is? Um, my favorite, when I first started reading this, I actually circled it, as you can see right
Mhm.
there. This was chapter 1, or the acknowledgments. It says, for now, though, I'm just not sure my day to day, my menial and monotonous mornings, my humdrum afternoons, and my predictable evenings amount to much. I'm not sure the right here, right now of my life means much at all, other than keeping my children and husband alive. And I just had to laugh at that. You know, it sounded, on one hand, it sounded pretty despairing, and then it ends with the kind of a chuckle, or, you know, a little sarcasm or irony.
Yeah.
What's your favorite line from the book?
I don't. Mm, I don't know if I have a favorite line. I've had people ask me, like, what was your favorite part to write? What was, all the thing. And I just, every time I open it up and read a part of it, I'm like, oh, I like that. That was really good. Um, it's so hard to just, choose a bit. I loved writing the first part of the book about God and really getting to like dig into that. Because I love God, and I think one of my very favorite things to do is to instill a greater awe in people of who God is and what he's done and in his love and all of that. And so being able to really set aside 3 whole chapters and just really dig into that in a very relatable and even vulnerable and in inserting some of my story into that. I think that was probably the easiest part of the book to write, and because of that I had a lot of fun with it.
There's one portion of the book talking about hope, big hope, or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if I should say this or not. I have a problem with the word hope
Yeah.
because it seems to me more like just another word for wish.
Wishful.
I hope someday, it
Mhm.
almost sounds like wish.
Mhm.
I wish that someday, and
Yeah.
it doesn't sound very firm and
Mhm.
concrete. It sounds more kind of fluffy and am I wrong there?
No, I think because hope is biblical, it is that is the right term for not a wishful thinking of a better future, but a solid understanding. I think I even say it in the book. Like for me, um how I think of hope is that it is solidly rooted in what God has done in the past. It is, it's also hopeful and looking forward to what he's going to do in the future, but also understanding that that hope has gravity and it means something for today. And I think what we've done is culture, and we've taken the word hope and we've put a new definition on it, and we've made it more wishful thinking versus biblically it was a sure it's faith. It's a, you know what I mean, like it's much more related to faith than a just a wishful thinking. And so maybe it's just a matter of switching, you know getting our perspective set right back on what hope actually means versus what we use it as. It's the same thing with like love. Like I love a good taco, but I also love my husband, and so, it's the same kind of thing where our English language just kind of botches some of those words that actually have a lot of depth and meaning.
Mhm. Can you tell us your story about how, where this book came from? Your it sounded like you had some feelings of insignificance or wondering, what's this all about? Yeah, the first I just wrote, you used words like mundane and
Mhm.
predictable, and were you having trouble with that?
Mhm. For sure, especially when I was a young mom. Um, my husband and I got married when I think I was 21, had my first kid at 22, and then had two more. And so by the time I was 20, I don't know, maybe 27, I had three kids. My husband Jamie was working for my dad, and it was very it was a lot. It was a lot for him, and while also pursuing ministry at the same time, because that's where his heart was and that was where his calling was. And so he was working full time, but then also working at church, and I was just home with the babies. And that was my day. My day was repetitive. It was the same thing every day, wake up like, I don't think I can do it again. Loved my children, loved my husband and the life. And it wasn't a matter of like being ungrateful or, any of that. But when you're faced with tomorrow looks exactly like today, and the next day looks exactly like that, and not necessarily seeing light at the end of that tunnel, and just know, the kids, they're babies and required a lot, and
Mhm.
all of that. And so there was a long chunk of time where I just like, I know I'm keeping my children alive, and I'm, they're great, and I've got my, but what this can't be it. This can't be all of it. Not that they aren't enough, but just I think that's a struggle that a lot of moms, but also just people in general, whatever we happen to be doing, it just sometimes when you get stuck in the monotony of every day, and you wonder, does this even matter? If I didn't do this, would it matter if I stopped? Would it,
Would
um
anybody notice?
right, would anybody notice? Would anybody care
Would anybody care?
too? And so it was just kind of, yeah, I kind of outlined my journey throughout, and I didn't know it was going to end up that way in the book. I didn't in the beginning, I didn't understand, and I had no idea that certain parts of my story were going to line up with the way that the book ended up being outlined and moving forward, but it kind of did. And so as I'm writing it, I was able to see, wow, God started this journey in me way before I even had this inkling of small doesn't mean insignificant, and so it was very interesting to look back and see the progression as I was writing the book. Um, and it was only through God that I was able to kind of break out of that kind of thinking of, this doesn't matter. And nothing in my life changed. The circumstances didn't change, but God began kind of softening my heart and breaking it up again and helping me to, and I talk about it, there's a whole chapter in the book about kind of what started that, changing the way I thought and changing the way I saw my life and looking for just the little things in life that are beautiful and worth celebrating and enjoying, and taking walks with my kids every day and watching the buds blossom, in the springtime, and just opening my eyes to the beauty all around me really had a huge impact in breaking out of that like insignificance and disparity kind of.
Would you say you were depressed?
I don't know. I think I could have been at certain points. I never went to a doctor. I mean, and they're definitely, after having children, hormones and all the things, and all of that definitely comes into play. But I couldn't say whether or not it would have been like a depression or just kind of an inclination to kind of wallow a little bit.
In the book, you write about how you and Jamie met, and that's a great story. And you wrote about how the I'll let you tell the story, but anyway, in this whatever it was you were, there was a boot camp, and it said it almost killed you. And I wrote a note that says, "What was boot camp like?" Oh my goodness, tell us about that.
Boot camp was exactly what you're thinking it was like. Exactly. The
So
picture.
you were in the army.
It felt like it. The army of God. That's what it was. So I joined the year after graduating from high school. I had some ups and downs. It was hard to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. The year after high school, I joined a ministry internship in Minnesota. And I had no idea, but the first entire week of this internship was a year-long internship. It was like your whole life that you're committing to the ministry, to learning, to all kinds of different things. So I moved up there. I'm living in a house with a lot of girls in it. And the entire first week of our internship is what they call boot camp. And they woke us up super early, like 3 o'clock in the morning or something. That first night, had no idea that was going to happen. Luckily, my dad, before he left, he's like, so this next week's going to be really hard. I can't tell you what's going to happen, but you need to be prepared. Do you have tennis shoes? I was like, I think so.
What am
And
I going to need tennis shoes for?
what are
I've
you
got my
talking about?
sandals.
Right. I had one pair of like sweatpants, kind of like I didn't have any shorts. I didn't have any athletic shorts. I didn't have any, I'm not an athletic person by nature anyways. And so I didn't pack any of that stuff. So did have a pair of tennis shoes, and I had one pair of like sweatpants, like capri sweatpants. It was quite a few years ago. And so they woke us up super early. We had to pack our bags. We had to run all the way across town to the church, and like all this, and we were yelled at, we were given a number, we were like everything was stripped away from us. And then we were bused to like somewhere in Wisconsin or something for a week. And it was like a summer camp place, where kids would go, but no amenities, it was not nice. And we ran, we had to do a lot of team building things. There was a lot of running, a lot of sprints, a lot of stuff like that. They'd wake us up super early, random times during the day. One night we had to play this all night game, so we got no sleep. we had to do wall sits, and we had like just all this stuff. We were thrown in the pond and the lake. We just I ended up fracturing my foot.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I didn't realize that I did that, but all of a sudden I'm like, I can't like walk on my foot because my shoes were just a little bit too small, and the amount of running that we were doing put too much pressure on my foot. And luckily they believed me, and so I could kind of like walk instead of run, but my foot was swollen for months afterwards. You know, the purpose behind it was to make us a team, to, you know, bring us together and
Break you down and build you back up.
break you down, build you back up. I think it was very extreme. If I think if my parents knew what was going to happen, they wouldn't have sent me. If my kid, like, I would not send my kids to something like that.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, anything else? Anything you want to say? Wrap it up. What?
No, I don't think
This is all
so.
about you.
Yeah, I appreciate the time, and I appreciate your encouragement throughout the years. Always asking me, how's that book coming?
Right.
So I appreciate that. And yeah, I've enjoyed this conversation, and I hope that you have been encouraged by it.
Oh yeah, definitely have. And this will just be the start, this small start, right? But there's going to be many more podcast interviews for you. This book. So yeah, this is just this was the icebreaker for you, and there's more
Great.
of these coming in the future. So good luck with that, and I know you're gonna have this is going to be a bestseller. I guess what is a bestseller? 35,000 book. You have to sell 35,000.
I have no idea. None.
All right. Well, here we go back into the numbers. See how fast I did that? I just went right back to the numbers. My gosh.
That's what success is in the world, but it's different. So. Yeah.
All right. Well, for Ashley, Lane, Kelly, this is Scott Townsend. Thanks for watching and listening to the Scott Townsend Show. Have a great day. Everything's going to be all right. And we'll talk to you later.
The Scott Townsend Show is a Dietzo Man production. For more episodes, visit the Scott Townsend Show YouTube channel, listen on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.
जिन्हें इस बात का यकीन हो और आपके करते में लेन को तब्दील करने से पहले अपने कंधे पर नजर आते हैं